Well, this morning the dispute is picking up over a growing issue, the homelessness crisis. Thanks so much for joining us here at 6 a.m., everyone. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Netta Irampour. El Cajon's mayor and the county now exchanging words once again over hotel vouchers for the homeless. CBS 8's Dana Marie McNichol live in El Cajon now with the very latest. Good morning, Dana Marie.
Good morning, Eric and Netta. Well, the mayor of El Cajon has come out and said that this situation has gotten out of control. He feels as though this is a dumping ground for people experiencing homelessness using these hotel vouchers. Now, he says that they have become illegal homeless shelters, but he doesn't blame those hotels.
Our intention is not really to fine anybody. I think they thought that they were doing this under a government program, and they were doing it in good faith. And so I understand that.
Now, we just heard from El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells, who tell us that 18 hotels in San Diego County are in the voucher program, and 8 of those are in El Cajon. The El Cajon Police Department says that it has arrested a number of people using hotel vouchers. Some had criminal histories or even warrants out for their arrest. Mayor Wells says that 2 motels were operating as homeless shelters illegally because 100% of their occupants were homeless. Mayor Wells says if a hotel has more than 1/4 of people using homeless vouchers, then the hotel will be in violation. This carries a fine of $100 per day. A 4th violation goes up to $1,000 a day. Several hotels received warning notices last week. Now, in response to this, CBS 8 reached out to the county about the arrests at the motels. Supervisor Joel Anderson sent the following statement. He said, quote, "I've asked the county staff to investigate, and I'm eager to learn all the details. Like El Cajon, our primary concern is community safety." Now, Mayor Wells says he's invited the county to a meeting with hotel owners as well as police this Friday to resolve the situation here. So, of course, we'll keep you updated on how that develops. I'm Dana Marie McNichol coming to you live from El Cajon.
Dana Marie, thanks for the update. New funding is coming for a new homeless shelter in Oceanside. The county is giving $3.2 million in grant money to the city. The new shelter is expected to open up in December. Oceanside is one of 3 cities getting county funds to help fund new homeless efforts, along with Vista and the city of San Diego. And this morning, the city of Chula Vista wants your input on the future of Harborside Park. We've been working for you on this issue for weeks now. The city closed the park earlier this month and forced homeless people to leave. Community members had complained about drug use and violence at the park. There was a shooting there. It's next to an elementary school. Some homeless advocates blame the city of Chula Vista, saying it lacks resources for homeless individuals. The park is set to remain closed for at least 90 days. The city is inviting people to talk about the park's future. Today's meeting will be held at our Harborside Elementary at 5 p.m. And this morning, police need your help finding a woman they say killed a man in Talmadge. Authorities say Sheila Camarena should be considered armed and dangerous. She's accused of killing 33-year-old Michael Favre back in September of 2020. Camarena is described as 5'5", about 170 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. She is known to dye her hair red, as you see in this picture, blonde or fully red. You're asked to call Crime Stoppers if you have any information.
This morning, the city of San Diego is moving forward with that water rate increase. City Council approved a 3% hike for the year 2023 for next year. The San Diego Water Authority, the city's main supplier, announced this rate hike recently, driving the city's move to increase its rates for a second time now in 2 years. The Water Authority blames inflation and higher energy costs. And now we have an update on those mysterious lights seen in San Diego's sky on Monday night. This is something many of you called us about, wondering what are they? Turns out they were military flares. In fact, the Coast Guard told us one of their helicopters saw the lights. They flew to them because they were curious too, and then they were able to communicate with an Air Force aircraft who said their pilots were in fact performing exercises involving flares. And
now we know. All right, we could see another interest rate hike here this morning. The Federal Reserve is widely expected to raise interest rates by as much as 3/4 of a percentage point. That would be the 3rd rate hike of that size in a row. The goal is to curb inflation. Last month, the annual inflation rate in the U.S. stood at 8.3%. And a jump in gas prices again this morning. They're going the wrong direction. Overnight, the average price in San Diego County increased 6 cents to $5.48 for a gallon of regular. The national price also increased slightly today to $3.68 after nearly 100 days of decreases.
And new this morning, Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a partial mobilization of his military, calling up reservists. It's a significant escalation of the war in Ukraine as Moscow loses ground on the battlefield. Putin is also warning the West that it's, quote, not a bluff that Russia would use all the means at its disposal to protect its territory. In the meantime, President Biden is expected to condemn Russia's war in Ukraine this morning while speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will also be speaking at that conference. President Biden is also expected to call on world leaders to counter the military rise of China and to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. The United Nations is now calling for an investigation after the death of this Iranian woman in custody. 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died after being detained by Iran's so-called morality police for not wearing a hijab or head covering properly. Police claim she died from a heart attack. Many women across Iran are now burning their hijabs. They're cutting their hair in protest. You see some images from Iran. Well, it also shows Iran's police clashing with many protesters. Men and women now taking to the streets for 5 days of unrest in that country, calling out the ultra-conservative dress codes for women that have been in effect since the 1979 revolution. Many Iranian Americans here in California are posting all over social media, also calling for change.
Hurricane Fiona is strengthening as it moves toward north toward Bermuda. Fiona is responsible for multiple deaths in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Power expected to begin coming back on in Puerto Rico here today. Officials say it will be days before the full extent of the damage is known. This morning, we are hearing from a San Diegan in Puerto Rico. We're looking at video she took as the storm slammed into the city of Isabela. We interviewed Danelle Guindani over the phone because she has no internet service, and she tells us this was unlike any storm she's ever experienced.
It was so loud where the howling just didn't stop the wind, and you can hear it circling through the house. You can hear the rain pounding against the windows, and the rattling wouldn't stop.
Balboa Park's House of Puerto Rico is raising money to help the island. We put a link on the help button at CBS8.com. Let's check in with Evan now. You're tracking Fiona's path here.
Yeah, right now Category 4 hurricane. This is the first Category 4 storm of this Atlantic season, and you can see what a punch it has packed. Right now 130 mile-per-hour sustained winds over the open ocean, but the trajectory of Fiona right now heads all the way up to about the Bermuda area within the next 48 hours. So just around Thursday into Friday is when we're expecting it to just kind of sideswipe Bermuda and then continue farther north from there before becoming a post-tropical cyclone. But it looks like it could maintain that Category 4 wind speed all the way through at least Friday. That means 130 mile-per-hour speeds on the way. So again, first Category 4 storm of this season. We could possibly have more, but this has already brought plenty of rain, several inches of rain to Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, all spots that have seen power knocked out. So we'll continue to, of course, monitor this situation on the other side of the country off the Atlantic. However, off the Pacific this morning, we are seeing that some marine layer clouds are developing. So here around San Diego County, we're seeing that right along the immediate coast, we're waking up to a few more clouds than what we saw just about 24 hours ago. It was a pretty clear start to the morning yesterday. Temperatures are going to be in the mid-70s by the afternoon, low 80s inland. We're already off to a pretty mild start to the day, mainly in the 70s. And then here is that marine layer that we have to start off the day. You can see it continuing to build on infrared. Into the next couple days, we're going to see a ridge of high pressure build. And what that ridge is going to do is bring our temperatures up. So the trough that has kept us cool over the last couple days moves off to the northeast and just kind of breaks apart. A ridge of high pressure expands over the west. And as it does so, we'll see those temperatures climb into the 90s inland, mid-90s expected as early as Monday of next week. Let's talk about what's going on in traffic this morning. We'll cover more on those afternoon highs coming up in just a few minutes. But I do want to point out what we're seeing on the roads to start off the day. First, taking you down to a pretty messy scene on the Coronado Bridge. Crash just popped up on the bridge itself. This means that right along the course of it, you're seeing plenty of red, speeds down to the single digits. Wouldn't be too surprised if we started to see some congestion on the 5 southbound and northbound leading up to Coronado. That's usually usually what we see around this time, especially if a lane is blocked headed over the bridge. We previously had a stalled vehicle here blocking the slow lane on the 805 southbound at Governor Drive. That is now cleared. You are back to clear conditions there on the roads.